So yeah, Dan, I just wanted to start off by learning a little bit more about your background, how
Mm-hmm.
you got into plumbing. I know that you were part of a family business,
Mm-hmm.
and just learn a little bit about how you started, and then where you went from there, and how you grew, and then how you got into what you're doing now.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah, I mean, Danny, so really I started like a lot of second generation trades kids or people start. If your dad's a plumber, you just kind of start plumbing. It's just what you do in high school and you kind of grow into it. And so sometimes I joke, I say it was a path of least resistance, but I actually really love the trades and I really love the plumbing trade. And so I started in like 2000 when I started full time in the family business, and really I went to college for a few years, realized that wasn't my thing, came back, started plumbing full time, and just kind of loved. I love serving people. I love fixing things. I love seeing the joy they had whenever I repaired something. So.
Hmm.
I really lean more into the service side. I have an older brother who's also a plumber,
Okay.
and he really leaned more into the commercial side and more into the new construction. And so we naturally kind of grew apart, and he started his own business, and I had my own business, and we just kind of grew from there. And so I love the trades. I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart, ended up buying a house in the local town I lived in, small town Texas, and was just running a service truck and enjoying that piece. And then about around 2010 is when my dad said, I want you to come out of the truck and start running this company. And at that point, we had a good solid foundation, a great family business, but we didn't really know how to grow from where we were at. We were always around that 10 to 20 employee mark, and that's when that's really when I found my first coaching organization. Started jumping in. We were always members of PHCC,
Hmm.
which was always part of a good foundation. And I want to say one of the first organizations we joined was Quality Service Contractors, which is a piece of PHCC, and started to learn how to build really a legit service company, like something that could operate without us being there full time. And anyways, was kind of thrust into management, making my way through it, started getting coached. But as the business was more and more successful, it became a lot about me and a lot about what I was accomplishing. And I didn't realize what it looked like to be a servant leader. I didn't realize what it looked like to give the credit to my team. I was young, a little immature, and I was taking all the credit for myself.
Yeah.
And that really reflected both on me and my business and on me in my home life. My marriage wasn't as good as it could have been because it was all about Dan. It wasn't about serving my wife. And my business was on the outside looking in, profitable and growing and looks great, but it was all about me. So my team wasn't as happy. And around 2000, I want to say like 17, a lot of things happened in my life. A lot of things with my faith happened, and I really, between my finding God and then finding John Maxwell and what he teaches, which is very biblical servant leadership stuff, I started seeing the flaws in how I led, and I started realizing, like, man, I am nowhere near being a servant leader. And I started leaning more into that and getting more educated in that, and then started to apply those tools to what I did. And what I found was not only was my home life better because I was learning to serve my wife and be a better husband and father, but also my business life was better because I was learning to serve my team. I was taking that hey, I'm the owner of this company hat off, and realizing that there was really no position in the company that was below me. If somebody needed help somewhere, I would help them, or if I needed to go get in a truck and ride with somebody, I'd go do that. And I wouldn't let it take away from the responsibilities that I had. But as I was starting to dive in more and be more part of a team, and it really started to change, and I started to create a culture of people who loved to be there. It wasn't just about the money. It was more about the team, the culture, and just loving what they did. So.
Which John Maxwell book was it? The first one that you came across?
It was a 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
It's a great book. I love that one.
It's a good book.
Before I actually started my first business, I read his book, Put Your Dreams to the Test.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read that one?
I haven't read that one, no.
And I was like, this one scared the crap out of me because just all the questions that it asks, it's pretty much telling you, are you ready to go and jump and go after what you want to do, or do you have all of these things decided on how you're going to build your business, how you're going to serve, how you're going to do each piece of it? And I was like, this is a lot. But yeah, the servant leadership aspect of John Maxwell, I still listen to his podcast all the time when they come out.
It's good.
I'm on their email thing, and I love that they actually have worksheets that come with them if you're on their email. And so I did that with our leadership team as well, where I would send out the podcast, and then we would have the worksheet, and we'd go over it in our admin meeting. Just take a few minutes, go over, hey, what did you think about this one? What were your answers to these pieces? Just to see, are we all on the same page?
Yeah.
Because I definitely think his stuff is awesome. And so when you got into QSC, what was it that you learned from being part of the Quality Service Contractors organization that helped you guys to really take the next steps? What were some of the first things that you remember that were the most pivotal for you?
Yeah, the first thing I realized is that, you can grow a business without a coach, but when you get a coach, it adds that extra layer of accountability, and it just speeds the process up. And a good coach will keep you from going right or going left and keep you more on that path towards whatever it is you want to accomplish. And so some of the most pivotal pieces that we learned was first just structure in our profit and loss statement, knowing what percentages we should be shooting for when it comes to our cost of goods sold or it comes to our marketing and things like that. And then the other piece that was really pivotal is position agreements in a business. A lot of people may have heard of position agreements or job descriptions and think, no, it's not really that big a deal. But actually, it's a really big deal, because when people start to have an identity and a role, and they know what's expected of them, they can really start to excel in that role. And then it also, on the flip side, serves as an accountability piece. I can't talk today. Because in the service industry, what I've realized is we're in the service industry because we like serving, we like making people happy, and majority of the business owners I work with, if not all of them, are that way. And all the people in the organization, they are that way, because if they weren't, they would go into a different avenue of the trades. And so with serving and with making people happy, the really difficult part that most people have a hard time doing is holding people accountable. They just want to give till it hurts, and then be frustrated because now you've created a bunch of entitled team members and or entitled technicians who end up leaving for more money and going elsewhere. So the position agreement puts it in writing. It takes the emotion out of it, and it's just a foundational piece that you can use to hold people accountable.
Yeah, I 100% agree that you have to have those pieces for everybody within the business to understand what they're supposed to be doing. And then also when you have those laid out, then you're able to have a career path track so that they can understand where they can go next. Because I believe one of the biggest things is also having a big vision, and being able to share your vision and evangelize your vision to your entire team, so that way they understand where you're going. Because if they don't understand where you're going, then they don't know where they fit into the vision of the overall plan. And I know that's something you work on with your team, with your mastermind and people that you coach as well, is helping them to really solidify what their vision is to be able to move forward with the team.
Yeah, and that's the next chapter is I read a book called Traction by Gino Wickman, and I was like, wow, so there's actually, because before I read that book, it was like you talk to a company, maybe somebody had a vision statement, or maybe somebody only had a mission statement, or maybe somebody had a purpose statement, or maybe somebody had some other kind of weird statement. You're like, none of this really makes sense. Like, there's so many different ways that you can do this. And so I read the book, and I really realized, like you were saying, how important the vision is in the organization. And so I simply put it as like a vision statement serves a purpose. Usually when we're setting, or I'm working with a client, we're looking out 10 years of what is it you want to create in your business. And I ask them, what do you want to be known for? What type of services do you want to offer? And what geographic location do you want to serve? And those three answers help us put together a very simple vision statement. And then our mission statement becomes, what are we going to do daily to accomplish that? You kind of hear like it's your why or whatever. Like it should be some, like, getting in the weeds a little more. What are we going to do as a team that's going to help ensure that we get to our vision? And then our core values become really the principles that are never broken. They really define our culture. And the way I define culture is It's your core values plus your willingness to hold yourself and your team accountable to them. And so those were three big tools that I learned through that. And then also the power of having, I think they call it an accountability chart in that book, but I call it a vision map. And so looking out 3 years in your organization, what kind of revenue do you want to achieve?
It's the VTO, Vision Traction Organizer.
Yeah, this is all pieces I'm talking about here. Yep. And then just breaking that down. That is such a powerful tool, and a lot of business owners struggle with that because they feel like it should be perfect. Mm-hmm. Like I should know exactly what I want to accomplish, and I always let them know you're missing the point. Really, the point is that let's get something on the wall on paper that we can show our team, and then if we need to do a little tweaks start of next year, we can do that to that. But the vision, mission, core values should never change.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
So when it comes to working on that, how do people normally engage you? Do they normally come into the mastermind first and then they go into coaching? And I think that when you mentioned that earlier about bringing on a coach and how much difference it made, it's like if you look at the top athletes in the world, Tiger Woods, Jordan, Kobe, all of them, they all have coaches. They are the number one, but they still have a coach. Mm-hmm. I think that was something that was always put into me from a young age because my father was a teacher and a coach. Mm-hmm. And so he does coaching as well still right now, but not sports coaching. Now he's doing business coaching.
Yeah.
And just how important it is that you need that third perspective. And one of the times he sends me an email every single week to my brothers and my nephew as well. Okay. And every Monday I get an email from him. And this week's it was about how open are you to change. And he talks about a basketball game that they were in, and they were down by double digits. And he decides in the end of the third quarter, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, he's going to play one person that's going to just stay on offense the whole time and never come to the other side. They're already losing by double digits. So he only has 4 people playing 5 people on defense.
Yeah.
And they end up coming back and only losing by a couple points. And the athletic director came up to him later, and he's like, you have some big balls for doing that. After you can't guard them with 5 people, you decide to only keep 4 people down there. And he goes, you have some big balls, but it worked out. He's like, it's all about changing up your strategy and understanding, are you open to looking at it from a completely different perspective? And I think it's the same when it comes to business sometimes. You have to look at it from a very objective standpoint on your business. And, all right, maybe we've been doing it this way for 10 years, 15 years, 30 years. Well, are you open to looking at it from a different perspective if you want to get a different result?
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, just to hire a coach to make you sit in a room for 2 days and establish your vision. I mean, unless you're paying somebody to force you to do it, you're not going to do it. You're going to wake up every day and just be putting out fires. Whatever's in front of you, you're going to be doing. And yeah, I mean, even as a coach, I have a coach, you know, because I want to grow my business. I want to grow myself. And I'm always constantly reading books and learning and just taking in knowledge from, cause I think everybody has something to teach you. And it's just, are you present and willing to listen? Because sometimes it's great information you learn, and sometimes it's really bad information. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So I'm learning not to do that. And so it's, I mean, that's really what life's all about. And, you know, when it comes to finding a coach, I mean, there's a coach at every corner at this point. I remember in 2010, coaches were still not, I mean, there was a lot of life coaches. You heard that, right? But you didn't hear a whole lot of business coaches. Now, you turn the corner, everybody's a business coach. And so really what I encourage people to do is just find somebody that you trust and feel that they're very relatable to you. And they have a track record. You know, they have some clients that you can talk to.
I think that's very important.
That they've proven.
Do they have a track record?
They have a track record.
Because there's so many people that go in and they go through a coaching program and now they're a coach. But what did they do before? Were they ever able to get themselves to the position that you're looking to get into?
Yeah.
Or is it somebody who wasn't able to get there and so they decided to go coaching instead so that they could fast track into that piece?
Very true. Like if I rewinding back on the story, in 2019 when I decided I was going to leave or sell my share of that business and go into coaching full time, that was a huge decision because I had my whole path in front of me. I made great money. I had a great family business. And at that point, it was a self-operating business. But when I was leaving, I had a lot of people tell me, oh, Dan, when you leave, this business is going to fall apart. And my ego was like, yeah, it will. Like, that'll be awesome, right? You know, I mean, and some of that had some resentment with some other things and some family stuff going on. But that was a very immature leader. And John Maxwell, I just, how you find things at the right time. I listened to one of his talks, and he talked about leadership transition. And he said your leadership is only as good as the business you leave, or only as good as the business when you leave it. So that's a great test for even people going on vacation. They can leave for a week or two, and your leadership's only as good as what that business does when you leave. And so for me, I spent the last year really focusing on reproducing my knowledge and the right leaders to take over that organization. And it flourished when I left, and it continues to flourish. And I take a lot of pride in that. But it's amazing just that little shift in mindset. And I think it goes from that, like, it kind of is the shift of that abundance mindset of which we should all have. And I think the old school way of thinking is that that we don't want somebody to take our job, or we don't want it to be successful. We're not there because it helps our ego.
Yeah.
So I know I was kind of going back a little bit on that, but
no, one of my favorite quotes is actually "Ego is the enemy." There is some places where ego is good, but that's actually confidence. It's not really your ego as much. But yeah, when it comes to leaving something, and it's like, I had a coach that told me, he's like, you want to see how good your business is? Leave for 30 days and find out how many phone calls you get. How many times do they need you?
Yeah.
He goes, and if you're getting a phone call every single day, you've got issues. You need to put more processes in place. And just, I was listening to something earlier from our business coach, because he puts out different things each week, and it was just talking about how important, especially when you're creating value in your business, the systems and processes that you have in place are what's going to make it so that your business is actually more valuable. Because if you have hard and strong processes that everybody could follow and somebody could pick it up, understand exactly what they're supposed to do, your business is way more valuable than if you're the only one with that knowledge. And normally a lot of times that's where people feel like that they're going to be able to leave and it's just going to fall apart. Well, it's because you don't have the processes in place and nobody else knows how to do your job anyways.
Yeah, that's very true. It's funny, systems and processes. Like, how do you define a system and how do you define a process? I love defining those things, making them, kind of simplifying the process. I also did the same thing with leadership and management. But in my mind, most businesses don't have any systems in place. And what it means is they're not proactive in any areas. It means they're always reactive. They're reacting to whatever the issue is at hand. And so they may have some processes in place, like here's how you do this task, or here's how you answer this phone, or here's how you file this away, or whatever it is. But there's no system, and so the system would be, if I have an office team, a customer service team, the system would be every week we come together and we follow a clear agenda and we have a meeting and a training session that helps prepare us to be better, to maybe not even have fires to put out, because every week at the same day and the same time we come together and we reunite, and then we go out and do our thing. And so there's so many different ways you can do that, but the biggest ways I see when I start working with companies is, first and foremost, from the top, leadership meetings, weekly leadership meetings, and most people are like, oh, the meetings are so stupid, such a waste of time, and it's because they haven't been ran well. They just let people ramble on and on and on. And then the next one would be training your techs or training your office team. There's so many different areas that you can create these systems and put them in place, but the way I look at it is, at the top, if you're not consistently having your leadership meetings, having that system in place, then it directly reflects the rest of your time management and also your organization. And then the other piece is just being on time to stuff. And I was a few minutes late coming here. Don't tell anybody that, but being on time for things, which if you ask anybody about me, especially the people I coach, they know that timeliness is starting on time, ending on time is very important to me. And
I actually went in before you got here and I was like, I really hope Dan shows up on time, is what I said to Jeff earlier.
I know. Yeah, don't record this piece because everybody sees it. They're like, oh, I'm going to get Dan for that. But yeah, I literally came anyways. Always good excuses. But you know what? I own that. And I was a little bit late, but we're here and we're rocking it.
Yep.
And I think that's what also, when it comes to leadership, people want that in a leader. It's easy to say, well, the elevator took me to the wrong floor and I got lost. But really what people want is a leader who says, you know what, I own that. I made the mistake. I didn't start up early. I didn't get up early enough and get here in time. And I
Have you ever
didn't
read
give myself enough buff.
Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership?
I have, yeah.
It's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, it's a great
Changed
book.
a lot of my mindset of just taking accountability for everything. Even if it's just somebody else on my team, I'm going to take accountability for it because I'm ultimately the leader. And so there's something that happened where I miscommunicated something or I didn't make it clear enough. And so you just have to take it on yourself and understand that you got to own every single piece of it. So like if you're the owner of your company and you're getting mad at your techs for something, it's on you.
Yeah.
Because you didn't communicate it properly or you didn't make sure that they understood exactly what was supposed to be done. So you got to make sure that you take that ownership. And also then not holding it as a grudge against them and understanding that, all right, next time, here's what we're going to do to make it so that it's better. And so this doesn't happen again, but you have to take the time to do that. And something that we run a lot of times after we do projects is what we call a postmortem. And so that's where we go back and we look at the project. Okay. What did we do well? What do we need to improve on? And where are areas that we can get better for the next time that we can put into place to make sure this doesn't happen again? If there was some issue, or celebrate that, hey, we did a great job. But if you're never going and taking the time to reflect and actually look back at it, then you're always just running to the next thing. And so making sure that you're setting aside time to reflect on what happened so you can continue to get better, I think is a very important piece. And it's the same thing as watching game film when it comes to sports. The top people, if you hear stories about Kobe, everybody else is going out. What's he doing? He's sitting down watching game film, and then he's going to work out again. And then you wonder why he's one of the best in the world, because he was obsessive about getting better every single time. He's always watching that game film, or before he's going into a game, he's watching the last 4 times that they played that team so that he can understand, how does this person move? What changes? I saw a video the other day where they mashed up Jordan over top of Kobe, and their moves were like almost identical down to a T of how they moved around the rim, how they moved around the court, how they'd pass stuff off. It was like it would be one where they're passing the ball and you would see them both head same direction, hand coming out, and then they would transition to the other person. It was insane. Or coming around and doing some sort of move around somebody for a layup or a dunk, and it was like identical the way that they looked. But it's because they've spent so much time watching and perfecting it.
And it took discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that because there's so much you can learn from that. And most business owners rely on motivation, and motivation is up and down all the time. And so if that's the way you lead your life and that's the way you're leading, then your whole business is going to lead exactly like that, because it's influence, right? Leadership's influence. And so what I help them do as a business coach is realize that first and foremost, and then slow down and teach them the importance of consistency. Because people, when I use the word trust, like, does your team trust you? Everybody tends to go to like, I'm a pretty honest person, they should be able to trust me. But honesty and trust to me are two different things. Just like I think integrity and trust are two different things. They can all go together in certain moments, but trust to me is more of your track record. It's more of like, as an entrepreneur, I could really I could go to this conference, get super fired up, and come back and want to implement 12 different things, but then 2 weeks later, only 3 of those ever stuck, right? And that becomes your track record. Then when you go in to implement something new in your business, people remember that, and they're like, oh, just give Dan a few weeks. He'll forget about it. Like, there's no reason to really buy into this. And so next thing you know, you have an organization of people who don't really buy into your vision because of your past. And so if you can switch from that motivation to that discipline and start to think more of, okay, if I implement this in my business, who's going to carry the torch and how are we going to keep it going? Then that question right there will keep you probably from not implementing a whole lot, because you realize either you got to run with it, or you need to hire somebody or find somebody in your organization who can carry this torch and keep it going. So, and
then hold accountable after that.
So Jocko Willink says discipline equals freedom. And that could be in your personal life, that could be in your business life, so many different areas. But it's just simply put, having a system in place that you follow and being consistent with it. And then there's no better way to do that than to have an accountability partner. Like even in my workout life, like I have a group of guys that every morning we just text, like, here's our workout for the morning. It's like 3 of us in the group, actually 4 of us in the group. And it's just a motivation because, everybody gets up at different times, but there's one guy that gets up, works at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So when I wake up at 5, my watch is going off, like, finish my workout. It was awesome. So I get into my day, and it's like, I got to work out today, like he's working out. I got to work out.
I actually have a group just like that. We call it the Accountability Buddies.
Oh, nice.
is the name of our group.
Nice, yeah.
And it's like right now it's about doing just 100 push-ups a day. It's like check in. Did you do your 100 push-ups for the day? And it's like, I don't care how you get it done. You just have to do 100 push-ups today.
Oh man, that sounds horrible.
So it's just based on time, and it's like as soon as you check in that you have it done, then nobody's going to give you crap. But if you don't, they're going to come after you for not getting it done.
Yeah.
So when it came to building up your guys' business, what was some of the biggest pieces of marketing for you that made a change when you guys were going to grow customers? Because there's the whole service side of it and getting all of that in place and having that running good. But when it comes to your marketing, what were some of the biggest wins for you with your business?
Wow. So marketing, I am old enough to go back to the days where I took the business out of the phone book and brought it online. Had no idea what I was doing. So first and foremost, I had to find a company that I could trust and somebody that I could trust. And so I was lucky enough to do that in that time. But, really, so the first and foremost I say for people out there listening is there's so many marketing companies. You need to find a marketing company that you can trust and really build a relationship with and that has a track record of happy clients. And then the next piece I realized when I got into marketing was, there's so many different ways to market your business, and there's so many different strategies at different size businesses. But really the key thing is that it's not one thing. It's the sum of many things working together consistently. Once again, there's that word, consistently realizing that every effort doesn't bring an instant ROI. Which that's really hard to hear for a lot of entrepreneurs because everything they want is instantaneous. That's the world we live in today, right?
But also with the digital age brought how you could track the ROI of every single thing. Yeah. Compared to in the past, if you weren't before digital, you couldn't track how many leads you were getting from each place. You could, but it would be by doing different coupons or different things that you had to do. And it's like, oh, this is bringing us the most customers. Yeah. And now everybody wants to be able to track every single thing to every single dollar that they spent. And there's some things that bring in a lot of business, in my opinion, you still can't track. It's hard to tell where they're coming from. And that's when you start to get that brand recognition as well from all the things that you're doing in the communities.
That's it.
I think that people highly underestimate what you can do by just actually participating in the community and showing up. Showing up is one of the biggest things that I say is huge for companies. It's like, are you showing up to local events? Are you really actually out there? Or are you just running ads online? Because when you mix running ads online with showing up to these different events and being out there in the community, it makes a huge difference when you put them both together. But you have to make sure that you're showing up plus being there when they're coming to search, because then they're going to have the brand recall of remembering your name. Oh yeah, we saw them when we were out at it could be a T-ball game, anything like that, and then they're going to put it all together. But you need to make sure that you have both of them going. Because people are like, oh, that just doesn't work for us. And it's like, well, I understand you can't track it, but eventually you'll see it all grow together.
Yeah, the beautiful thing is the more that you brand, the cheaper your marketing gets, you know, because the phone's ringing organically. And so, yeah, a lot of people get stuck on even social media. Like, I don't have a good return on social media. It's like you're missing the point. Social media is just an influencer. I mean, that's it. Like they may go to your website because of your social media, but you can't really track that, you know. You just track the lead from the website. So, but yeah, marketing is so much. It can't be an emotional experience. It can't be an emotional decision. And man, it's just like, let's put together the strategy. Let's figure out first and foremost who our avatar is. Like, who's the person that we're looking to attract to our business? Like, this is actually more stuff I learned from Gino Whitman and Traction. Like, building that marketing strategy. So who are we looking for first and foremost? And then really, when it comes down to that person, like where are they located, what kind of income do they have, what type of house we want to serve. What you realize is that once you dial that in, you really start to your money starts bringing a bigger return because you're not just all things to all people.
Mm-hmm.
You're really focusing your spend down. And then I like to split it up into 3 buckets, which is your initial sales bucket. What are your strategy to get people to come into your business? And then the next piece that a lot of small businesses miss, but the bigger businesses don't miss this anymore, is the retention bucket. How do we regenerate that customer coming back time and time again? Because the customer that comes back to you is going to spend, I want to say it's like 30% more than the initial visit because they trust you at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You're their go-to tradesperson. And then the last piece is community. Like what do you fill that bucket with? And a lot of people don't fill it with anything because they don't realize that's even that important. And going back to that is everybody can talk a big game, but when you start walking it and people start seeing you in the community, that's when you really start to separate yourself, and they won't forget that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So there's something I just thought about, but I was thinking about Gino Wickman and Vern Harnish, because Vern Harnish's Scale Up. I don't know if you've read his book as well.
I haven't read that
But
one.
Gino
No,
actually came from EO, which is Vern's group, and then started that. I saw Vern speak last year at Biz Owners Ed as a class that I was a part of,
Nice.
and they brought him in to speak on behalf of EO. But so when you're looking at it in community, what sort of things do you think have the biggest impact in community?
Depends on where your avatar's at, So if you're serving people that are in the 50 to 70 age group, you may be doing different activities than if you're serving people who are in the 30 to 50 and have families.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really, it starts with who you wanting to attract. Because really an answer, I can't really give a good clear answer to that, because some people are going to job fairs, some people are part of chambers, some people are part of local town fairs, doing parades. I mean, you can just go on and on. But the next piece to that is your social media presence and realizing that people don't want perfect, they want real, just like leadership, right? They want a leader who's real, not one who's always right or perfect. It's the same thing on social media. People want a company that's real, not one who's always perfect. And once you start putting that stuff out there consistently and people see that you exist, all that is just a branding tool for you. And when they do need you, they're going to go and call you. It's like people aren't like, what's that company again? Let me go to social media and try to find them. Like, that's not really the process. They probably go to Google and start searching there, which you'd be a better expert on that than me. But I'm just thinking, social media should be for them seeing your brand over.
Well, what I tell
again.
people a lot of times when they come to us and they want to do social media, I tell them that it needs to be real. So if we're going to do social media for you, we're going to need you guys to help us. Every single one of you owns a phone that's better than any camera was 10 years ago.
Exactly.
All we need you to do is give us some content. We're going to give you an outline, and we just need you to give us some stuff because we need it to be real. If you look at pretty much every single plumbing page out there, when they put out an ad, what looks like an ad, they put it out as a picture, and then they brand it, and they put something else on there that they did in Canva. They get very low engagement. When they start putting stuff out of the people that actually work at the business, fun things that they're doing together as a team, that sort of stuff, so people can actually really feel like they're a part and they can see into the business and who they are.
That's good.
That's when you start seeing a lot of engagement. Because I'm like, nobody cares that their HVAC company said Happy Easter. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
They really don't care about that. They want.
It's
they
you
want to
and
see
the other 1,000 companies who do the same thing.
Yeah, they want to see who is the person that is behind this company. How do they treat their employees by doing? And you're showing your team events. Doing team events is even a big thing, and making sure that you're actually spending time with your team, doing things with them, but then sharing that. People want to see that, and it's also not going to just attract customers. It's also going to attract new talent. Which is a very hard thing for people to come across right now. That's something that I hear constantly is we just can't find enough good people. Nobody wants to work anymore. I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, are you attracting the right talent, or are you just bringing people in and you want them to just do this one piece and not understanding that they're part of this culture and this life?
That's true.
And so being able to show that, social media is one of the best ways to do that, because your website's going to be more professional. You might have a page that's like your culture page, but it's really going to be social media is where you can share that stuff. And like I said, everybody's got almost a lot of us have 4K cameras in our pocket.
Yeah.
Most of your screens aren't even 4K that you're going to be watching it on, but those are amazing cameras.
They are.
It's stuff that we couldn't do 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember having the flip phone, and I look back at pictures that I took in 2012, and I'm like, this photo looks horrible compared to today. So one of the other things is, like you talked about it, finding your avatar.
Yeah.
So when it comes to niching down your company in the trades industry, like what are some different niches that most people don't think about inside of, you could say plumbing or HVAC or roofing or any of those different trades, that they don't understand how they could position themselves to be the best at this? Because you could have like a sewer and septic only company, or like Zoom Drains Done. They're just drains.
Just doing drains. Yeah, I think the first thing is to just know what you really enjoy doing and realize that you don't have to be all things to all people, which is what we all are when we start a business. It's like, yeah, we'll take everybody. Just come give us money and let's hopefully make this thing work. And then a few years in, you start to realize that, okay, I need to start to get a little more focused so I can start to grow and become more profitable. And that's really what it comes down to. The more focused you can be, the more profitable you can be, whether it's your marketing or your services. And so, yeah, different niches I see out there. I mean, there's people that are just doing leak detection work for plumbing, which is with all the cool technology nowadays. There's so many different ways to make trenchless repairs and replacements, and you become known as that. Now you start getting hired by all your competitors to come in and do their work too, and you can kind of name your price at that point because you're the expert in that field. But when you kind of zoom out a little more, there's maybe you're doing all things, but now you want to be just more solely a service company, and you can really start to build your team up to learning how to serve your customers in any trade. And because there's a difference between a new construction tradesperson going out to a residential house and then an actual residential tradesperson going out to a residential house. There's a different look, there's a different feel, there's a different empathy that goes in place with that. Just different all the way around. And I'm not hating on either one. It's just more of what you're used to doing. So if you're out there running a service company or any trades company, and you're trying to be like the best in new construction and also be the best in service, and the best in commercial too. The problem is each one of those experiences for that tradesman is different. The customer is different. The repair is different. And so it's like you're asking me to go to 3 different jobs to stay, and every job is like a total 180 difference.
Yeah.
It's hard to really get good at something, and it's hard to really hold your team accountable to being good. You're like, man, why aren't you selling more? It's like, well, because I'm spending 50% of my time on commercial jobs where I'm not selling anything, and then the other 50% I'm out to residential. I'm just not well practiced, and so when it comes to niching down, you can even see it as that. Now, I will say I have realized over especially the last few years, in the working with companies all over the nation, that you can kind of niche down too hard at times. It depends on the market and what you're used to doing. But I like companies who kind of, like if I'm going to be a service company, I like companies who, they may want to mainly focus maybe 70% on residential, but they still keep that 30% commercial or light commercial and multifamily and things like that. Because, like anything else, like residential is so much ran off the economy and the fear that the news puts in these homeowners. And vacations and summertime and voting season and the different seasons that change, it's always just kind of up and down. And so when you have a little diversity in your company, it's good. When you have memberships, like people who are coming back time and time again, you can go out and fill out slow seasons with inspections and stuff like that.
So when it comes to the PHCC, you were talking about it earlier, about how it had a big impact for your business. Really, the QSC was what you're talking about, but just being part of the PHCC, how has that had an impact on your coaching business, as well as what are some of the things that you learned and why is it valuable to you?
Yeah, PHCC was something that was obviously around before QSC, and so my dad was always a member of it, and he always kind of instilled that they help protect the health of the nation, or they help protect our trade, and they fight for us with the different laws coming through and stuff like that. So he always instilled the importance of being a part of the organization, and And so from early on, that was something I always knew. But really, as far as PHCC, they offer, continuing education classes for tradespeople. I was actually just on one last night. Actually, 2 nights in a row. It's kind of cool. I used to have to go sit in classrooms. Now we can just Zoom it from my house, sitting out by the pool, doing my continuing ed. So they offer a lot of great solutions for that. But really going back to the QSC, like once they started offering the coaching options and things like that, it was really powerful. Other thing PHCC does really well is their conferences. Getting together and getting to see all your peers, people that maybe don't know yet, and then learning from different speakers and seeing different vendors and stuff like that. If people aren't doing that now, they really should plug into an organization like PHCC and start going to those events and start being a part of that, because there's just so much to learn, and there's so many great relationships to build that, building those friendships when you have a question for somebody, you can pick the phone and call them. It's pretty powerful in your business.
Yeah, I think associations in general are a big thing for business and just learning in general, like you're talking about, being able to have people that are like-minded as well. Because sometimes it's hard in your close circle to find people that you can actually have a conversation with that understand where you're coming from. And so being able to have a community that you can go to, of people that you met. I actually met you at the PHCC Texas event last year.
We did, yeah.
And now I talk to you probably once a month since then. So I just think that they're great events, and it's just the people that you meet are amazing. I've met so many good people through different events and different associations over time that I still stay in touch with, and I think that it's amazing that what you can learn from them. So when it comes to some new technology that's been coming out, ChatGPT. It's one of the hottest buzzwords out there. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah. It's bigger than NFTs and Bitcoin and all these different things that come out all the time. Yeah. I think it has the most staying power as well. So have you had much experience with it at all?
Yeah, we are using it for transcribing our podcast, doing all our podcast notes and things like that. It's an amazing tool that's just really intuitive, and it just speeds up the process of doing that.
I actually had somebody here that came up to me earlier today and was like, this is the first time I used ChatGPT, and wow, what it wrote out just off of the prompt that I gave it, it was amazing. I can't believe it. And it's like, it was almost kind of scary. But the big thing about using a system like that, and the way that people can use it in the trades as well, is you got to understand the prompts that you're giving it and the way that you're working with it. It's more of an engineer mindset than it is a copywriting mindset. And so most people don't think about it that way. And so with the different prompts that you can do, it can help people with their customer service. It can help people with communication of getting back to clients, and you're stuck on an email. We'll put something in, and it'll give you an idea. I look at it as more of an idea generator than just copy and paste it over. That's not how you should be using a tool like that. But there's so many different AI tools out there. Some of them we'll be speaking about this summer at a couple different conferences, is talking about how you can implement AI, because it's been able to make so many more efficiencies for us as an agency, not just ChatGPT, but AI in general. And so learning how you can harness that technology to help you instead of being afraid of it, I think is the biggest thing. And people, it's a big black box that they're not ready to kind of jump into. And so once you start playing around with it and just take the time to understand it, then you can see how it can benefit you from everything from scheduling to doing inventory. It's amazing the spreadsheets and everything that it can come out with on these different AI tools. And so being able to implement those and stuff that used to be mundane tasks that people would have to do, you can now automate it and get them done so much faster. But you really have to understand how you need to use the tool and what you need to do. So we actually have a list of prompts that we'll be giving out of things that you can use for your service business, and how you can actually prompt it to give you good information. And so that's something we'll be putting out in the future. We haven't released it yet, but it's definitely something that's going to make a difference. Most people are like, oh, AI is not going to take over our service positions. Well, yeah, it's not going to take over service positions. It's not going to take over some of these different jobs, but it's something that you can use as another tool. And so if you look at it as a tool that's in your tool belt that you can use, then you can optimize different pieces. It's like if you think about some tool that's came out, trenchless repair. If you think about that in plumbing, trenchless repair compared to having to go through and dig everything up and replace everything, and just how much it has made it so that it's less of an impact to be able to get it done that way. It's insane, the stuff that you can do with trenchless repair now compared to thinking back 15, 20 years ago about what you had to do to fix the same thing.
Yeah. It goes back to realizing that if you're open to learning, there's so much to learn, and it's what are you doing with that knowledge? Because a lot of times businesses, when you look at the revenue levels, they plateau at different levels, and it's the ones that dig their heels in and say, well, this is the way we've always done it, we're never going to change, all that stuff is just crazy, we're going to keep doing it this way, are the ones that keep getting the same results. And so, when you hear all these different things, my mind as a tradesman thinks, wow, okay, that sounds like fancy and hard to use and things like that. So that kind of mindset may keep somebody from actually diving in and learning how to use it, or finding somebody who can help you use it. Because you're right. I mean, the time it takes to put together that email, or to write that script, or to do whatever it is that you're doing with it, could really make a difference in your bottom line on your P&L and your net profit for your business. So
and
cool stuff.
And like I said, if you're looking at some of it as an idea generator versus that it's going to finish the whole project for me, it's going to give you a completely different idea of something that maybe you didn't think about, depending on how you prompt it. Just something that we'll be talking about this summer, and is a big hot topic right now. So I just thought I'd bring it up.
I could see it being a great training tool for the technicians too. Whether in the field or just preparing for technician training, with all the information that it gives you at such a quick speed.
It's kind of crazy that ChatGPT passed the bar and it passed medical exams.
Wow.
That's how smart it is.
Wow.
So,
even in this day and age, the technicians, they look different, because as far as like back when I was a technician, you couldn't get on YouTube and learn how to do something. Like if there was a faucet I didn't know how to work on, nowadays they're just on YouTube watching videos or Googling things and learning information. So the technology piece really helps enhance the ability of the technician, and also the selling ability of the technician. So,
do you know Dennis Harmon from Gene Johnson Plumbing up in Washington? Dennis the Apprentice?
I don't. Dennis the Apprentice? No, I don't.
I love the way that he's put together his training facility and the stuff that he does. When I was talking with him on his show, he was talking about how in their training facility they would have one night a week where they would just invite people, and it's like, I don't care if you work with us or you work for somebody else, if you want to come learn, just come to our training center. And so then they would also bring in people that it's a guy who's worked by himself forever, but he has so much knowledge and he wants to be able to share it with other people. So he would come into their business as well. And then he would be sharing all these techniques that he does, but he doesn't want anybody in his business. He just wants to share and be able to talk with people who are like-minded. And so it was very interesting when I talked with him, and it kind of shifted my mindset about that. I was like, that's kind of awesome just to let people come in and just share the knowledge. And so he said that he's never really had a problem recruiting. He's always got people coming in because they're always coming in, and then they see the culture and they see the atmosphere and everything. Yep. But he brings them into the training center that they built into the basement of one of their buildings. So smart. It was a cool and different concept that I haven't seen as many companies. You'll have your corporate training center when you get really big, but just to have something like that. So shout out to Dennis, because he's awesome. What he's building is great, and he's really going after getting apprentices and bringing people into the trades, because most people, when they think about it, if I asked a lot of people that I know how much a plumber makes, they're going to tell you, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, not understanding that if you're a master plumber, you make really good money. And people just don't understand it. Another guy that I love is Mike Rowe. I love Mike Rowe and Dirty Jobs and all the different stuff that he does. I actually reached out to his team because I want to put on an event in the future and have Mike come speak at it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I was thinking that when you were sharing about Dennis's invite, that open invite, that abundance, right? So you're confident enough to have people come into your location and steal all your ideas if they want to, but he's using it as an influencing tool. So he's serving the community, but it's also an influencing tool to get people into the culture. I do that as well. I did that as well, and I have some clients that do this, but they just every quarter have an open house for just all positions are open, right? And they just invite all the community to come into their office, They serve a dinner of some sort or just some snacks and things, and they just talk about their culture and their company and their vision, where they're going, and give a little tour of the location.
That's cool.
And so, back when I was doing it, I would be up there talking and sharing all this information, and then I'd have team members around the room who were strategically looking for different mannerisms and how people are communicating between each other and just all these different things. And so we could take a room of like 50 people and narrow it down to like 20 people of who we'd actually want to hire. And then you just start the follow-up process with the interviews, and you find not only good hires through that, but you also find great customers through that.
Yeah.
When it's community members that are coming in and seeing like, wow, this is a pretty cool place. Yeah. So it's a good idea all the way around.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we covered both of them.
Yeah. Let's see. Any other tools that can help you work smarter, not harder?
Okay.
Well, one thing that I'm pretty sure I've heard you talk about before on your podcast,
Okay.
when I think about work smarter, not harder. Yeah, work harder, not smarter. Don't worry about being smart. If I remember correctly, you talk about having a checklist or some sort of thing that you do in the morning.
Yeah.
Do I remember hearing that?
Yeah.
I think in one of your emails you were talking about how making sure that you're setting yourself up for the day each day. So if you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, let's do that. So, how we do the small things in our life really reflect on the bigger results we get. And a lot of people don't realize that. Going back to our talk about systems and putting systems in place in order to be proactive, well, it's the same way in our personal life. And a lot of business owners come to me with a vision, and they say, Dan, I want to be a $10 million company in 3 years. And they may be at a $3 million size. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of growth year after year. Like, okay. And then I start to question them, because I've gotten smarter in realizing that it's one thing to have a vision. It's another thing to have the discipline to achieve that vision, have the capacity, the smarts, but also money and things like that go along, and the ability to take risk. And one of the biggest things I see, Danny, in the ability for entrepreneurs to grow and be successful is the discipline in their personal lives. And so going back to that vision story is, they may have this grand vision, but as soon as they get their business to a certain size, then it starts running on its own. They find themselves off playing golf or going on vacation, and it's like, wait, hold on. We wanted a $10 million business, and we need somebody who's willing to put that effort in to grow it. And so I teach a lot about what you do first thing in the morning is it should be the most important thing in your life. Besides like making coffee and whatever, but like the first intentional, like as far as, are you reading? Are you working out? Like, what are you doing? Are you journaling? And a lot of times business owners wake up and they either go to social media or they go to their email. That's the first thing they do. And the way I like to see is, like, if you're doing that, you're literally going directly into playing defense to your day, because both social media doesn't make you any better, any smarter. It makes you actually feel worse. And then emails is just, all you're doing is responding to people who are needing your attention. And so you're establishing your day like that, and what happens is the rest of your day follows that. So it just builds on that. And I talk about, you need to learn to be disciplined and start your day intentionally, and just make sure you block out that time to where you get those things done first. Like for me, it's a little reading, it's a little journaling, and then it's a workout. And then I go shower, and then I get ready for my day, and then I get to my office, and the first thing I do is I open up my calendar and I open up Trello or my to-do list, and I just look at the meetings I have. I make a list of prioritizing the most important to least important, and then I feel like for what I do as coaching, and I do a lot of Zoom and a lot of meeting with people, that's my most productive time, I know, is in the morning. So I spend at least 30 minutes preparing for each session. And so I have a notepad that has notes on it, and I just flip the page, title it, note it out. And that works for me, and then I will just set alarms on my phone letting me know my 5-minute or 10-minute warning to that call. And now my day's all set up and I'm ready to go. Then I dive into my email and I start to respond to people. But it's like, we teach people how to treat us, or we teach, like if we allow these things in our life, then we can't complain about it. Because if we, the whole thing, like if I give you an inch, you're going to take a foot type thing. If somebody's calling you after hours and it should be your family time, but you're disrespecting your family time and taking that call, all you're doing is telling that client or that friend that it's okay to call me at this time. I'll be here for you no matter what. So what happens next time? They call you double the amount, right? And then triple the amount. And then eventually you're like, God, why are people always calling me? It's because you allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
You got to set those clear parameters for your life and hold true to them. So.
And I think another thing when it comes to that, because sometimes I have a hard time following through with my morning routine. And I'll go on vacation. And then I come back and it's hard to get back into it. And it's like also giving yourself the grace to understand that it's all right if you miss it a couple of days, but get back on track. But understanding that you have to have something as well that's kind of a catalyst to put you back on track. And so something that's going to remind you, hey, you're not doing this anymore. And this is what was getting you there. Because those small things add up over time, just being 1% better every single day. I'm sure that you've probably seen all the stuff going around about that, about how much exponentially better you are if you're just trying to be 1% better each day. But if you're being the same each day, well, you actually end up being negative.
Yeah, Ed Milet. I haven't read the book yet, but he wrote The Power of One More.
It's really like good. I saw him go speak in person right as it was coming out.
Yeah, just do one more. I was actually, listening to a professional golfer being interviewed recently, and he was getting ready for a major championship, and the person interviewing him said, "What are you going to focus on during this round? And the course is really hard. The conditions are cold. It's going to be really tough." And he just looked her in the eye and said, "Acceptance." He's like, I'm a professional golfer, and this is a really hard course. I'm accepting the realization that I'm going to hit a bad shot or get a bad break. But it's like, what do I do after that? Do I move to the next shot and focus on that, or do I dwell on the past? And that, it's funny, I just turned it on just for a minute, and I saw that, and I'm like, wow, I needed to hear that, and then other people need to hear that same story, because in business, it's so easy to dwell on that angry customer or to dwell on that wrong decision or, like you said, to sleep in and not get up and do your workout. And so if you dwell on that, it just becomes your excuse not to do it the next day. And so you got to just say, you know what, it's okay. I missed it, but tomorrow I'm going to be better, and then and you can really build on that. So some good advice.
Yeah. My buddy Grant Corgan, he has a movie called The Push. It's on Amazon Prime. Highly recommend checking it out. He was a backcountry snowmobiler, professional snowmobiler, and then he did nanotechnology was his actual day job. And so he would go on these trips where he would be working, and he'd be in the office for 4 or 5 months and would literally not leave his office. Great movie. But he's now paralyzed from the waist down from a snowmobiling accident. He was the first man to do a trip to the South Pole and do push skiing. And his feet, he had to have monitors on him to make sure that he wasn't getting frostbite because he can't actually feel his toes going numb.
Yeah.
And so his whole thing was, as I'm going and it's so hard, it's just 10 more feet. 10 more feet. Just always, it's just a little bit. Don't focus on the very end goal like you're talking about 10 million. It's like, can you go to the next spot, into the next spot, into the next spot? Because as you have that little tiny bit of each different one, they compound and compound and compound. But it's that getting stuck in a spot and being comfortable. And if you're comfortable at that spot, good. Well, you don't really want to get to where you said you wanted to get to. You're comfortable.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of my favorite quotes is, life starts just outside your comfort zone.
Yep.
Everything is just a little bit outside your comfort zone. You can get a little bit better, but you got to push yourself. And our human nature is to want to be comfortable. And so it's like, well, I'm not comfortable trying something new. Well, get uncomfortable if you want something different.
That's it.
Because it's always that push. And that's one thing I loved about, I've always done extreme sports is I'm always pushing myself just a little bit more. And then you fall and it hurts. But you get back up again and you got to try it again and again and again. And so I relate that to business a lot of just trying something new because otherwise you're just going to stay in the same place.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you feel alive when you accomplish it. And yeah, that's awesome. Awesome story. I love that. And it goes back to what I was saying about be disciplined. Like a lot of the growth plateaus is because the business owner, the leader of the organization is not disciplining themselves. And so you look at different areas of your life and you ask yourself, where do I need to be disciplined in order to break through to the next level? Because the business, like your team's never going to grow beyond your capacity to lead. And so that's why every business is different sizes at different times and grow at different levels. It's because it's just the capacity of the leader. And I also like to see it as, when somebody sets a goal for themselves, it could be as simple as I want to label my warehouse with labels and inventory it. but they never take any step towards it because they're down here with the messy warehouse. It's because it's such a big gap. They're living in that gap, and they're saying, man, it's just so much work. I don't have enough time to do it. But they're not thinking about the first step. The first step could just be sweeping the floor, right? Or just putting the shelves up.
I'm just going to do fittings.
Just going to do fittings, right? The next step, right? And then there may be 10 steps between where you're at and where you want to go. And so you can look at that same analogy in anywhere in your life, in business and things like that. And what keeps people from taking this step forward is usually what I see as the past. You know, they usually say, well, I tried this at one point and I got burned, or it cost me money, or it ruined this relationship. And so forever and ever, they never take the step forward, or the gap just seems so big and they're like, man, I just don't have time to do that, you know? And it's like, wait, hold on. You don't have to do it exactly like me, like the morning routine. Like, you don't have to, it's taken me a lot of years to get that disciplined, but you could wake up 5 minutes earlier and maybe, you know, read a book that helps you in your business, or listen to a podcast.
And when it comes to working out, it's like, even if you're only working out for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah.
Just get something in and get your body moving. And it's crazy how much difference it makes in your mind by just getting moving and doing something small in the morning. Because that's how I end up getting myself back into the routines when I fall out of them, is by just do something small. And just a little bit more and a little bit more. Like you're talking about MLS, just one more. All right, just one more, and keep going on from there. Well, I appreciate you coming and talking with us today. I feel like it's been a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to sharing the stage with you coming up in August at the PHCC event.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. It's been a lot of fun sharing, and just unfortunately we had to learn a lot of these lessons through the School of Hard Knocks, but it's nice to share the information you have, and hopefully it helps people out there that are listening.
Definitely. Awesome.